So this bench here is about 15 centimetres high. You can use a stack of books, anything that you've got kind of lying around the house that you can then turn into a bit of a bench. And what we're going to do is I'm going to place Alexander down. First of all, I'm going to get him on his knees, and I'm just going to help him a little bit by stabilising his thighs, and then I'm going to put him in that position. So his elbows are going to be underneath his shoulders, so we don't want him lying like this. We want him to really weight bear through his shoulders and through onto his elbows like that. So I can then use my feet to kind of come around and bring his knees in, so then I can get his knees closer together, or so then they don't kind of splay out a little bit as well. And we're just going to get him propping in this position here. So this is an excellent exercise for him to get a little bit of weight bearing, not only through his knees, but also through his elbows and shoulders. It's going to get him to come up into extension through his head, and that weight bearing through the arms is exactly what we want him to be doing. So as you can see, he can hold a beautiful position. When he's got bare skin on here, he doesn't slide around, and he can hold himself up for quite a period of time, which is until he fatigues is the best idea of, is how long I want you to do it. And doing it for probably a total of 5 minutes would be perfect, just to get that endurance and build it up. Now, what he's starting to do, he just pushed forward through his hips then, so he just gave me a little bit of a push. So if he ever wants to, what you want to do is then go up into a tall kneel position as well. So I'm going to have one hand at his hips and one hand at his trunk and at his chest, and I'm just going to lift his chest up first, and then I'm going to give him a little bit of a push at the hips, and we're going to come up into that tall kneel position there. So we can kind of give a bit of a stretch through his hips also. If we've got something for him to play with, then that's fantastic. And just giving him something to do with his hands also. We can do that in another way as well. Oh, you're holding that up beautifully, buddy. So we can do this one in another way as well, through the arms. So once again, getting his hands down, beautiful pushing up, buddy, well done. And so he pushes up, beautiful, through his arms and hands. Beautiful work, bud. And then I'm just going to give him a little bit of a lift up through his arms, and he pushes up through his pelvis there. So you can see him kind of wriggling around and pushing up through his bum and squeezing his bottom to bring his hips closer to the bench. So we're getting some really nice pushing through the legs, we're getting some activation of the glutes, and we're getting some beautiful pushing through his arms as well, and weight bearing on his arms in this position. So when he's heel sitting, oh, that's beautiful, buddy, you're holding that so well. So he's pushing more into his arms. I'm supporting his elbows, but I'm not going to push them in. I'm going to wait for him to straighten his elbows. So I'm just supporting him in this position now and waiting for him to do this pushing. That's perfect. So when he's heel sitting, you're on his elbows, and when he's tall kneeling up on his knees, then you're going to be with his hands flat on the bench and pushing up through straight arms. This exercise that we're doing with Alexander is, first of all, it's called P&F patterning. So what we're going to be doing is just getting Alexander, you can do him in any kind of a position. You're really focusing on the upper arm with this. It's a great exercise for him just to get a little bit more upper limb mobility and a little bit more stability in the shoulders. We're also getting, it's a bit of a neurological pattern as well, so we're getting a bit of a connection between those movements and the brain. So what you're going to be doing is starting with your arm in extension and up above your head, and then you're going to be bringing his hand down, always turning the hand so your thumb is leading, and then we're going to come down to the opposite hip, and then turn your hand, thumb is leading, and then coming back up into the same position. So I'm going to show you what we do is sing a little song with this one. So we bring his hand up and we go catch a star, turn his hand so thumb's leading, and put it in your pocket. Turn his hand so thumb's leading, catch a star and put it in your pocket. Catch a star and put it in your pocket. Good, so we do 10 of those ones, so up and then back down, and we do it with the other hand as well, so you do 10 of those on each arm. The next one that we want to do is the opposite position, so that it's bringing the hand and arm up, and then turning down and bringing it back down by that same side. So it's then up, opposite, up and down on the same side. Same principle again, always leading with the thumb. So with this one, our little song is blow a kiss and throw it away. Blow a kiss, mwah, throw it away. Blow a kiss, mwah, throw it away. One more blow a kiss, mwah, throw it away. So same thing, we're really getting that forearm supination and pronation. We're getting some really nice flexion and extension in the shoulder. What you want to be doing is just making sure that he's in a position where you can support his trunk. So because we're focusing on the arm, I'm really happy for him to be fully supported in the trunk. So having him facing away from you and having him nice and close, we've got him on. So we've just got him on that just to give him a little bit more of that stability as well. So I've got one hand up at the opposite shoulder than what I'm working with just to really support his trunk. So doing 10 of each of those, so 10 catching stars, putting it in your pocket on both hands, and 10 blowing a kiss and throwing it away on both arms as well. Roll of Chuck's Whites here, and we're just getting him to lie on his tummy. Now, the thing that we're really focusing on with Alexander in this one is getting him to push up onto his arms and his hands again. So same sort of thing, I'm going to support and have his elbows, beautiful pushing up with righty, don't forget about lefty. And I'm just going to support his forearms and around his elbows. Every so often I might give him a little bit of an input and I give him a bit of a prompt to kind of come up straight onto his arms, and I'm going to wait for him to actually push through onto his hands. I'm just going to move that roll just a little bit further back. So I'm not going to do it for him, but I'm just going to give him a little bit of a prompt and then wait for him to respond. So holding this position for as long as he tolerates and until we fatigue. So we've been holding this position on and off for about 5 minutes in the sessions, really focusing on getting him to lift up his head and getting into a little bit more neck extension. Beautiful, just like that, pushing up through his arms. He's getting so much stronger with. Once he's in that extended position, I'll just stabilize his elbows and just hold them there for him, so then he gets a little bit more endurance pushing up on his arms also. What we've noticed in the last couple of days, when he is in really fine form with this exercise, he'll actually start to want to move his knees in, and he starts to move his little legs. So what we've been doing is then going from this position then up into as much as we can into hands and knees. So to do that, first what you want to do, we'll just get that roll a little bit further down underneath his chest. Beautiful pushing up, my lovely man. So once he's pushing up nice and strong, perfect. And I'm just going to bring his shoulders over his hands a little bit more and wait for his knees to bring in. So he's starting to bring his knees up, particularly with that left leg. Beautiful. And just giving him that, giving him that input. So then he's, trying to come up and push onto his hands and knees, which is ideally what we want him to be doing from this exercise. So that's just another little progression for you. So with this exercise, with where you put the roll for him, the further down towards his pelvis that it is, the harder it's going to be for him. So if you have it like right up underneath his arms, then it's going to be a lot easier for him because he doesn't have as much to lift up and he doesn't have as much weight to put through his arms. So another progression for this as well is just to move that Chuck's roll just that little bit further down, so he has more weight through his arms and more effort that he has to push up also. So this next exercise that we're doing with Alexander, a dynamic sitting position for him. So we're on the foam roller again. This time what we're doing is we're really focusing on the propping on the arms. So I've got my finger in his palm, and he can hold on to that whenever he wants to. And what we're doing is in my palm I've got his forearms. And so I'm going to then get him into that upright sitting position. And we're just going to play around with a couple of different things. So if he wants his arms bent, I'm going to let him do that. I'm not going to force his hands in any particular way. If he wants to rest on his elbows a little bit, that's fantastic. He's holding his head up perfectly like this. When his head does then slump down, perfect cue, thank you. I'm gonna bring him forwards, and he's pushing up through his hands and his arms to bring himself back up into an upright position. So I'll bring him down because he didn't get all the way up. You ready, buddy? Big push up. That's it. Keep going, keep going.
And you'll bring his elbows together?
Yep, so the input that I'm going to give him is I'm going to give him a little bit of a squeeze. There you go. And I might bring my hands down a little bit just to give him that prompt to straighten his arms and push through his arms, yeah. So I'm just going to start it and then wait for him to finish it. So I'm not going to force his arms straight or push him into that extension, but I'm just going to give him a little bit and then wait for him to do the rest of it. So now he's kind of like sitting and propping on, and he's putting weight through his hands. I can feel him do that, and he's got weight through his elbows as well. And as you can see, he's holding his head up beautifully like that. So just playing around with it a little bit. If he then, decides to go down again, then, then getting to push back up into this upright position. So he's doing incredibly well with this. Once he's in this upright position, I don't need to give him any kind of an input. He's using his arms to help him stay upright. If he loses balance, he kind of corrects himself with the assistance of his arms as well. So he's doing a lot more with his arms. So this is a really fantastic exercise just to give him a little bit of a weight bear through his arms in a different position rather than being on his tummy. So what I just want to quickly talk to you about is just some tactile play, different things that you can kind of keep in mind with Alexander. So the biggest thing is just giving him a little bit more exploration with his hands in particular. So letting him feel different textures, temperatures, rather than, I know that you guys do a lot with him playing with his food, but just keeping in mind to present different things to him that feel different. So then he gets a variety of different textural ideas as well. So you can use it in a range of different things. Definitely use the things that you've got around the house. Uncooked rice and pasta is fantastic because you get a little bit more of that the hard texture, but also playing around with different things. So we've just got like 2 pipe cleaners here. Oh, excuse you. Oh, big cough, big cough. And we're playing around with just Alexander, having a feel of the different 2 textures. So one's a lot softer and one's a little bit more spiky and prickly. So we're having a real play around with Alexander, just feeling the different 2 and exploring how they felt around his fingers. He definitely showed a preference towards the softer feeling one than he did towards the slightly pricklier one. So if you notice that as well, absolutely respect Alexander's choice with that. So if he really pulls away from it, don't push it too much. You don't want there to be too much of an avoidance with it. Another fantastic idea as well is if you're going to be doing with rice, really nice to do it against a contrasting colour. So if you've got the white rice in something that's red, I know that that's a colour that he responds to really nicely. It's going to stand out from him. So visually it's going to be something that he's going to pay attention to as well. A lot when we've been doing things with rice is, working on a little bit of hand function and movement as well. So what we'll do is, we'll get some nice contrasting colour in that red dish. Now when you're sitting with him, because I'm not working on his posture, I'm not working on him holding himself up or anything like that, I'm fully supporting him. I'm really just focusing on him exploring and using his hands. Mm-hmm. So he's fully supported in my legs and against my trunk here as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not worried about that. What we want to do is, ideally we'd have a little table here with us. But what I want to do is really focus on getting that supination and pronation movement in his forearms. Mm-hmm. I'm going to focus on bringing both hands in and working with both hands together. So, some really nice exercises, we've been playing around in the rice and getting him to, flick the rice around, but really getting both hands in together, picking up a scoop and then dropping them everywhere. So just really playing around with different movements, picking up, getting the sensation of taking things away and picking things up is fantastic for him to start to experience as well. Mm-hmm. So definitely doing that with like a hand over hand action too. You can just use the stuff that you've got around the house, or you can, go out and buy, different things that you notice as well. But just, if you can use the stuff that you've got at home, really keeping in mind different types of textures. So soft, hard, spiky, smooth, silky, those kind of things as well. And just playing around with that. Fabric pieces are really good as well because you can get a variety of different textures and feels from fabrics as well. So there's a couple of different options for you too.